Guys, I'm Shagufta Hamid-Khan, and I'm the founder member and the chair of UNA Coventry branch. Philip and I are both founder members. And that's how I joined you guys. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
So I'm Roxana Anton. I'm the volunteer manager. And I'm studying a master's in diplomacy, law, and global change at the moment.
Fine. My name is Nsikak. Inyang. This is the second time we are meeting, like I said. And then I run the social media app. But I'm still pushing. I'm still trying to know more and to serve the branch better. And I'm sure with time I'll do much better. So I'm a master's student, international relations, and I just have passion for humanity. That's why I'm here.
So we're going to make a start. So the motion of this debate is being organised by the United Nations Association Coventry branch, and the motion of this debate is this House believes that people of sound mind have the right to die when they decide. People of sound mind have the right to die when they decide. So I'm going to propose the motion. Just let me introduce myself. I'm Philip Brown. I'm the Secretary of the United Nations Association Coventry branch. So I prepared a little speech here. The majority of the world's religions are strongly against euthanasia. Islam, for example, maintains that all human life is sacred because it is given by God and that God chooses how long each person lives. Human beings should not interfere with this. However, there are exceptions. Not all religions are as strongly against euthanasia as that. For example, more than half the people who follow the Shinto religion in Japan agree with passive voluntary euthanasia, which means letting people die who are terminally ill. So you don't actually do anything to hasten their death, but you don't do anything to preserve their life. And according to these people, the majority of the Shinto religion, preserving life is seen as a disgrace. There's another religion, Jainism, which allows people to starve themselves to death. Followers of some other religions support euthanasia to relieve pain. For example, some Protestants, some Jews, some Buddhists and Hindus. So if people are in pain, for example, if you had a dog and the dog was in pain and that pain was uncontrollable, I think most people would not want their dog to suffer and they would allow their life to be terminated by a vet. And yet, for human life, we're not allowed to do that. For me, I strongly support this motion. Just remind you that I think that people of sound mind have the right to decide when they will die. And the religious arguments are irrelevant because I am not a person of faith. And so I don't care what religions or religious people say. I only care for what I believe, what my logic and my conscience tells me. So, why do I believe that people of sound mind should have the right to die? The argument is very simple and it goes as follows. Who owns my life? I believe that my life belongs to me. and not to anybody else. It doesn't belong to God. It doesn't belong to the state. It belongs to me. And I therefore have the right to determine what to do with my life. This includes deciding what job I should take, where I should live, who I should marry, and when my life should end. If my life has become intolerable to me because of physical or psychological pain, and if, despite the best efforts of my family, my friends, my medical advisors and others, if despite all their advice, I cannot be persuaded to change my opinion, then I think I have the right for my life to be ended. I agree with most people, I think, that I should not be allowed to end my life until all of these people have had a chance to persuade me to change my mind. And after I have had the chance to change their minds, which I am in the process of trying to achieve now with you. But in the end, I think the decision is mine and mine alone. As I say, my life belongs to me and nobody else, and I alone have the ultimate right to decide when it should end. However, at the moment, in most countries, euthanasia is illegal. There are some countries which have legalized it, but not many, and some states within countries have also legalized it. As I say, not many. So let's consider the consequences of euthanasia being illegal. First of all, people who have no hope of a useful and constructive life, who have nothing to live for except a slow death, really find their life a burden, not only for them, but for their relatives, their family and friends who have to watch them slowly die. To me, that's cruel. As I say, you wouldn't do this to a dog. Why do it to a human being? There are other consequences of euthanasia being illegal. According to the BBC, 10% of suicides in England involve people who are chronically or terminally ill. Now, suicide, if you're having to do it on your own and doing it, why? Somebody asking you a question? No. Okay. Suicide, if you are doing it without the assistance of somebody medically qualified, is a dangerous business. And it can involve the life not just of the person attempting it, but others. For example, I had a neighbour whose son committed suicide after a long period of depression by driving his car head-on into another car. Both drivers were killed. So he killed, perhaps without thinking of the consequences, but his suicide killed another driver. And when the police visited the man's house, they found his suicide note on the kitchen table. So I want the law to change. I want for there to be a system which says, if you find your life is too painful to continue, either physically or psychologically, then you have the right to try to, or you have the right to explain how you feel to others, including your a team of medical advisors who will obviously try to dissuade you from this course, and they will have to produce a report that says this person is not under pressure. It's not his relatives who are trying to persuade him to die so they get all his money. It's his decision. He is of sound mind. He has made this choice, and it is ultimately his right. This is what I hope will happen once the law has changed. It turns out that, again, according to the BBC, I think this was on the BBC, 82% of people support changing the law and legalizing euthanasia for terminally ill people. And this is recently, somebody who was terminally ill went to the High Court to appeal against a decision that he was not allowed to do it. And the highest court in the UK has said, no, the law says you are not allowed to have euthanasia. In fact, he ended up dying 2 weeks, 1 or 2 weeks after that decision came down from the court. Other people have gone to Switzerland and to other countries which do allow euthanasia. There are many arguments in favour of euthanasia. I'm just going to quickly run through a few of them. Euthanasia enables a person to die and to be in control of their situation. Dying in pain or dying when you're incapable of moving or doing anything with your life, when you're having to be fed by your relatives, there's no dignity in that, in my opinion. Another argument is that death is a private matter and the state should not interfere, which is where I started from. My life belongs to me. I decide what I do with my life throughout the course of it, and I should be able to decide when I've had enough, I've done what I want to do, I'm not benefiting anymore from my life, and it's time to stop and give my space and pass on my money, whatever, to others and let them live. So if you're in a situation where you're getting no joy out of your life, I think once you've been assessed for, not being insane or whatever, you have the right to make that decision. Another argument in favour, I'm just getting near the end of the list, family and friends would be spared the pain seeing their loved ones suffer a long, drawn-out death. And I cannot imagine what that would be like. It must be, I think, perhaps even worse for them. And for a lot of people who are dying in that situation, it's to spare their relatives and friends the pain of watching them die, that they want it terminated quickly. And the last argument I'm going to put up, which I mentioned before, society permits animals to be put down as an act of kindness, and the same treatment should be available to humans. So that's my proposal. So I propose that the House accepts that this House believes that people of sound mind have the right to die when they decide, provided it is controlled, it is assessed, and all other precautions are taken to ensure that it is for them, it is the right thing to do and not for somebody else, apart from their families not suffering. But they're not under pressure, is what I'm trying to say. All that needs to be part of there needs to be a clear process, needs to be thorough, and that's what I think. So that's the motion proposed. Shagufta, are you going to oppose the motion?
Yes. That was very good, Philip. Yes. Very happy to hear your part of it. But in my opinion, I feel that assisted death is like assisted suicide, and they're one and the same. I think human life is precious and should be preserved at all costs. Once the person of sound mind's life is taken, they no longer have a decision-making faculty left to reverse their decision. They are dead. I heard you saying that there are issues like pain, there are social issues, there are personal welfare burdens, there is guilt, there is abuse, many reasons people would want to end up their life. But there are solutions to that. If somebody is in pain, there are solutions, like pain can be relieved. We can do something about it. So I don't see any reason why a person should be taking their life because they are in pain. We all have to bear pain. We all go through painful things in our life. If it was a social issue, there are solutions that can be reached. The state should take over and relieve the family of the burden of looking after that person's welfare. One should not be let to feel that they're a burden on the family. Nobody is a burden. In my humble opinion, I think as a Muslim, life is very precious. And I personally think that although I think euthanasia is a personal choice and people who are in excruciating pain and have no quality of life take the decision to die with dignity. However, it is also a slippery slope and be taken advantage of by unscrupulous relatives. Until there is strict legalization and guidelines, we have to be careful. Personally, I'm also against capital punishment. So even though this is slightly different, I'm not 100% in favor. So as a Muslim, I'm against it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so is there anybody else who wants to speak in favour? Because normally you have one speak for and one against, and then again you have a seconder who speaks for and a seconder who speaks against. Does anybody else want to speak for, or am I on my own here? If I'm on my own, I think I know which way the vote is going to go at the end.
Not really. I think I agree with you, Philip, to be honest. It's just because from personal experience, I have I've had cases in my family with people that were terminally sick and died of cancer. And I've been put in a situation where I had to see those people suffering, and I had to I can't say that I felt their pain, but it is very difficult to see someone you love going through that, and hearing them saying, I just want it to end. So if you were to ask me, then yes, I would give them that opportunity. As long as someone feels like can't take it anymore, then it shouldn't be forced to go ahead. Yeah, I agree with the fact that all lives matter. Definitely, life is every life. Each one of us is important, but at the same time, I think we should have the option to choose whether we want to continue with this life or not. Especially in a case where our life is going to end anyways. I would rather just end it now because I don't want to go through that suffering. I just want to go now in peace with myself rather than just go through suffering, which we all know it only brings negative feelings towards you, towards everyone else around you, towards the life, towards God, etc. So yeah, I think I agree with you, Philip.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay. So.
Sorry, Philip. For me, I don't think I agree with that. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. All right. Since everybody decided not to be on video, I think I had to get out of the video as well. Okay. I think I totally disagree the fact that you say, oh, life is belongs to you. It does not belong to God. It does not belong to the society. It does not belong to anybody. First and foremost, we only got life from God. Nobody. I see that it's very easy to take life, but it's not easy to give life. So you still see that if truly the only person that gives life is God, and if it's God that gave us life, I think He should also be the one to take life. And I think in the course of living life, we are living for the society, so we are still part of the society. And I know I myself, I am in a family where I have people that have been through a lot of excruciating pain. And though one passed on, I lost my in-law at Chamasa, and before the death, he went through a lot of pain. But there was still hope that anything could have happened. There was still hope that he was going to come back. There was still hope that his life would be revived. It was just a matter of time. It's just that at the end of the day, we still lost him, but we didn't lose hope that everything was really bad. And I think that our lives has been made in a way that it can always be rejuvenated. It just depends on the individual. If you make up your mind that you want to be healed, you want to stay whole, and you want to stay healthy, it's possible. It's also doable. It's a matter of your mind working towards yourself, whether it's to take exercises, to do something towards it, except you on your own, you just want to take your life, of which I don't think I agree to that. Because the whole essence of us living life is to add value to our families. Definitely, if you lose your family member, you'll be hurt. So you can imagine just assisting someone to die is painful to the family members. And also to the family members too, is also painful when you are not also not doing well. Your family is concerned. Like I told you, my in-law that was in pain, we were all concerned every day, every moment. We were concerned. And he actually was also believing that he would not die. But at the end of the day, though he died, but I can say he died happy. He died well. He on his own, he just felt, okay, it was now time for God to take him and let him go. So I think at the end of it, we still have to give ourselves the opportunity to live and to actually be all that God has called us to be. Yeah.
Thank you. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got Mohammed. Hiya, Mohammed. And we got Will, who haven't spoken. So, Will, are you going to speak?
Yeah. So, one point would be that legalizing euthanasia would devalue the importance of life. Like, people would begin to think there's no value in being sick. Since you've got the option of dying. I mean, it's not good. I'm against it, and it discourages incentive. It discourages future incentives to look for cures and research and development for health, I guess, because that is the option available for you. So I guess, yeah.
Okie doke.
Yeah, those two points are mine.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And Mohammed, you got an opinion on this?
I believe I'm against assisted dying and euthanasia. I think, as has been said earlier, life is precious, and I think the key word here is the people of sound mind, and I think that would be quite a difficult thing to define when it comes down to the legal side of things. Describing somebody who is of a sound mind. I've met many people who have been, could be possibly deemed to be of a sound mind to a doctor, and then have so many different emotions playing on their mind. So it just could open up a bit of a loophole there for people to, instead of going down the avenue of suicide, just going through the medical route. So I'm against assisted dying or euthanasia myself. I think it is hard when you see your older family members struggling, but as Nsikak was saying earlier, there's hope. There's hope out there. So yeah, I think that's where I stand. Yeah, it's difficult because with cancer and stuff like that, where there's so much pain involved, and people just want to just stop. I know I've been there where people, I've been saying that they just want to just stop and they want to go to a better place, and it all comes down to what they believe in personally. So I know in this country, it's second this argument, so it would be a lot more difficult to define, and when it comes down to setting up the legal framework for euthanasia, I can just foresee that.
Okay, thank you very much. So everybody's spoken now, right? Yeah. So I've got four different arguments, or a whole series of arguments, which I want to try and respond to if I can. So I'll start with Shagufta.
Sorry, you want me to speak?
No, what I'm going to do is respond to your commentary.
Okay.
First thing I noted down was that you said that once they are dead, they cannot reverse the decision. The decision's made. Yes, I mean, the decision would not be made lightly. As I've said, there would have to be a procedure, an extensive review. They would have to discuss with a team, probably more than one doctor, and others as well, different advisors, family and friends would have to be involved. It would not be a simple or a trivial thing. People would have to be, or the law would have to be absolutely sure that this person had made a decision. Yes, I agree that once they're dead, they can't reverse it, but the same applies to people that the states kill, the states who have a punishment of, dying because of murder. Somebody who commits murder can be executed by the state. They can't. That decision can't be reversed. And there have often been cases where, I don't know about often, there have been cases where people have been found innocent after they've died, or after they've been executed by the state. That to me is, another example of where things can go wrong. And I think that's worse. That's a worse fault of the state than people changing their decision. We would have to, be sure that they would not want to change their decision. You say that pain can be relieved. Well, there are cases where pain cannot be relieved. There are people for whom all the painkillers have been tried over a period of years, and their bodies have got used to it, and their pain just cannot be relieved. But it's not just in the case of pain we're talking about. We're talking about people who are losing the ability because of muscle wastage or for other diseases, other maladies, that they cannot function as a human being. They can't feed themselves. They can't do all the things that you would want to do. They're no longer, in practice, a living person. So it's not just the pain. Social issues. So you're saying that it shouldn't be left to the family to look after somebody. The state should look after that person. Well, I don't think that just because the state would look after them would make the family feel any better. They would still visit their relative and see that they were in a state where they had no joy in their life, where they wanted to die, where they were in a position to make that decision, and yet the state insisted on keeping them alive. And they would see it as they've taken our grandfather or whatever away from us, and they're keeping this person alive when he doesn't want to live. And that, to me, would be even worse for the family, who would want to let the person die. If that's what he wanted, and he'd convinced them that that's what he wanted, they would want him to get what he wanted, I would have thought. You say also it's a slippery slope, and scrupulous relatives could try and persuade somebody to die because they would get their money. Well, as I've said, there would have to be extensive investigation in every case to make sure that that was not the case. So the investigators, whoever they are, there'd have to be a team of them, would talk to the relatives, would talk to the people who were going to inherit the money, would have to be absolutely sure that there was no pressure. And I don't know where the slippery slope leads to. I mean, what else could be done on this slope? Where are you afraid the slope would go to, Shagufta?
I was thinking about the relatives taking advantage. There might be the financial gains and things like that.
Yeah, but I've tried to explain that there would have to be a very thorough system to make sure that isn't the case. Anyway.
See, because I believe that all human life is sacred because it was given by our Creator, and I think the Creator has chosen how long each person should live. Human beings should not interfere in this. And if we're saying that a person is in pain and we cannot relieve, you can't expect a doctor to be God there. It's like he's being God and deciding whether they should take that person's life away or not. Yes, everybody's got the right to die in dignity, but dying in dignity, you have other ways as well. I mean, I'm giving you example of my mother, for example. My mother was in a lot of pain. She was elderly. She was 94. But my devotion, my love, my care, made her quite happy, and she was happy. I never made her feel guilty. So if anybody is made to feel guilty that they're a burden on somebody or they are a nuisance, then obviously that person wants to go. But if you give devotional care, love, never make them feel bad about being ill, then that person will not want to take their life away. Nobody wants to take their life, give their life away. Everybody loves their lives.
Okay, so there was 2 points there. The first point was that, God created us, our life belongs to God, and we shouldn't decide when it should end. But doctors and other medical people are continually prolonging people's lives by, doing operations, curing cancer, giving them medication to overcome disease. As whole medical organization is there to prolong people's lives and give them healthy, happy, long. That's why the population is aging, because that's what we're doing. Now, what you're saying is God wouldn't want us to do that. God would want us to die. When we get a disease, fatal disease, let them die. That's the consequence. That's the logical consequence of what you're saying. If we can't help people to die because God has decided when we should die, then we shouldn't help them to live either, because God's decided, you've got cancer, time for you to go. What do you say to that?
No, who are we to decide that they should go or yes,
or live? Who are we to decide that they should live longer? That we should cure them?
Yeah, but Yeah, but life has been given to us, is precious, and God has given us that life. When the time is up, it's up. We should die
No,
in
it's not.
natural way.
No, sorry, it's not. When the time is up, we send them to hospital and doctors try to cure them. And often they do. We prolong life. So I just don't think that what you're saying applies to modern society. Maybe when there were no doctors, that's what happened, you know? But now society has changed. The whole world has changed. We can prolong life. If we can prolong it, why shouldn't we also give people the right to say, I've had enough. I'm getting nothing out of my life. I'm useless in society. I'm causing my family pain. I want to finish. Why not? Why not? I think this argument about God just doesn't apply. It doesn't work, in my opinion. Okay, and your second argument. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, okay. I mean, you're saying that, I hear what you're saying. But then there's got to be legislation. There's got to be guidelines. At the moment, I know in the hospital, the doctors were giving life, prolonging people's lives and all that. Now, all of a sudden, things are changing and they're taking their lives away. As soon as the person reaches their 70s, even 70s, 80s, 90s, the doctors, as soon as the patient goes into the hospital, the doctors are deciding this is the end of their life. And they start giving them morphine and other sedatives and all that. And they turn them into cabbages. I have been at the hospital. I've worked all my life in the hospitals. I have been there with my mother and all that. And I've seen how a patient has come from home with a broken, with a fractured hip, for example, and mentally, bodily, otherwise they're quite happy, they're in good form, they come to the hospital, and within 2 days, that person is completely like a cabbage because the hospital people, they've decided that this person is certain age and we should not be prolonging their life. So they stop their medication. They start giving them injections because they keep saying they are in pain. Yes, they are in pain, but it's not your place to give them those injections to become a cabbage. They come very happily and going as cabbages from the hospital and dying off. And I think that's wrong.
Okay, well, I mean, I can't speak to the cases you're talking about because I'm not acquainted with them. But in general, I don't think that's the way it tends to work.
Yeah, and also it varies on what a sound person would define as pain. So if I was to say, for example, I'm in some sort of mental pain, I'm not coping well after the loss of a family member, for example. Why is that less less important or less severe as somebody who is in some sort of physical pain? I think two people have sound mind. Their opinions of them, so they should technically be in the same boat. And I think the idea of God as well. I know not everybody believes in God, so that argument just doesn't work from them from the get-go. But I think prolonging life is different to ending life, as it aids God's work. It aids, the hope of God, for you to work through your tests and trials and tribulations, and experience life for what it is, not just give up. I think there are two different things. There are hospitals and doctors. All these scientific advancements, we believe, come through God for the purpose of aiding His work and making our lives a lot easier. I think it is quite a convoluted sort of point to make, but it definitely that does work. And I would like to see the numbers as well, like for people from different sectors of society. People have different communities and faith systems. And I think, a person with cancer who's in his 70s, who's a Christian, or a person who's an atheist, I think obviously they would have different beliefs. So I think the God argument would work for one and not the other. I understand that. So I definitely think it's quite difficult to define pain as well for two different people, and being told no, or being told that you can, one person can die and one person's definition of pain doesn't quite match up to what the hospital or the doctors and the governing bodies deem as sufficient, would just bring us back to the starting point and be sort of the same problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not just pain that we're talking about, is it? I mean, so the case that I mentioned where somebody went to the High Court and lost and then died a week later, it wasn't because he was in pain, it was because his life, he was absolutely incapable of doing anything without his family's, I mean, I think anyway, I haven't done a lot of research on this, but as I understand it, he was incapable of doing anything without his family's help, so he was putting stress on his family, and he saw there was nothing, he knew that he was going to die from whatever it was he had, and it was just causing pain from his point of view to his family to watch him just slowly wither away. And it would have been much better for him to go when he decided before, things got worse and worse.
Yeah, I'm not really 100% sure of what happened in that particular situation, but surely we as a society should try to build upon these flaws. I think building stronger family ties and community ties, everybody working together better instead of shutting themselves off. I know people are quite lonely and vulnerable out there, and I think we should. I think this is a lazy answer to the problem. Just by allowing people to die when they're facing loneliness and desperation. We should be building upon these people and providing them with positive solutions. I know we've made so much positive strides in the last the last decade or so with people suffering from mental health, and we've saved so many lives for people, and then they've gone on to do such amazing work, and they've contributed to society and continue to fix their lives and develop their family. I think I can understand the slippery slope argument, because it just basically means that one person who decides to end their life couldn't possibly have had an alternative life, and if they could have just saw that through and were helped through it by professionals.
But that's what I'm arguing. There should be a panel of professionals who go into all the motives that the person has, who try to help them, who offer them psychological help, try to fix any mental health problems. And if all of that fails, that could take years. But if all of that fails and they still want to die, I think they have the right to make that decision. They have to prove to the panel that they're of sound mind, that they're making this of their own free will, that they. But obviously it's not going to be easy. I mean, that's one of the reasons why it's still illegal, because people think it's just too difficult to do. But it isn't, because other countries have done it. I come to Will's argument. So the notes I made was that you said euthanasia devalues life. Well, I'm not sure why it devalues life. I mean, I would have thought we show the value of life by the process of investigating, of talking, of trying to help. We show that we value their life, and they don't value their own life. They don't want their own life. It's a gift that they have had enough of. And to make them live, to me is cruel. I mean, but I don't know why euthanasia devalues life. Euthanasia devalues society, I think, rather than devaluing the life of the person who doesn't want that life.
That's a fair point.
I mean, I was saying in the sense of like sick and elderly people, like people will begin to feel, what's the point of living if you're old and sick? You just end it there.
Yeah, I mean, people with whose brains, are not functioning properly. What do they call that disease?
Vegetative state or something.
There's a disease of old people, isn't there, where the brain just doesn't function properly anymore.
Oh, okay.
They would not be allowed. They would not be allowed to go through this process because they are not in a position to make a logical decision.
Yeah.
This is only going to be valuable to people who are able to make a rational decision. They've got to be in sound mind. So I wouldn't want anybody. What's that disease called? I should know this.
Which disease? Dementia. No.
Dementia. That's the
Dementia.
word. That's the word. So yeah, I mean that's common among old people. I wouldn't want them to be allowed to choose to die because they wouldn't have the capacity to do so, would they? The other of Will's arguments was that euthanasia would discourage future research to look for cures because people would say, well, that person can just die and we don't need to cure this, whatever this disease is. I don't see that's the case. I don't think that. Personally, I mean, I could be wrong. I don't think people are motivated or would be demotivated to look for cures. In fact, I think that would increase the motivation. If you've got a disease like these muscle wasting or these neurological diseases where people can't move and can't get, can't look after themselves, so their brain is functioning, but their body isn't functioning. The fact that if we were letting people like that choose to die, I think that would be an increased motivation to say, we've got to stop these people from getting this disease so that they don't choose to die.
Can I speak?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, because I think it is taken to mean that the deliberate and systematic killing of the elderly solely because they are elderly, either by others or through social pressures or to commit suicide and all that. This is all modern term, is in modern term. I mean, how would, all this extended family system has gone from this modern life, and elderly are made to feel that they are a burden. These elderly people brought us up as children, and if we as children had pain or something, the parents would go, these elderly people would go to any length to relieve that person's pain or keep that person going. And so as an elderly person, their generation, should be helping to keep them alive, look after them. That's my belief.
Yeah, but the situation we're imagining is that somebody is living, maybe they're elderly, maybe they're not, they're living and they don't want to live because they're either they've had enough of living or they're living with a disease that they can't cope with and they don't want to. I mean, we're not talking about people with dementia who are elderly and whose relatives are saying, get this, they go into the court and saying, we want this relative killed because, it has to come from the person and they have to make that decision for themselves. Mohammed's arguments, so you're saying life is precious, was the first argument. Well, life is not precious for everybody. You have to imagine yourself in a situation where you have a life and that life is going nowhere. You're gradually, very slowly getting worse and worse. You're not able to do anything for yourself. That life, I think it would be very difficult to prove to that person that their life is precious. to me, that would be arrogance on your part, because they are saying, my life is not precious. I don't want to live it. It's like living in hell. It's a living hell to be like this. And please, I don't want to do it anymore. How is that precious?
I think life is dear to all of us. And if we're made comfortable, if we are not made to feel guilty and all that, everybody wants to live. There is no person I know that would want to die or kill. They would only want to die in like drastic measures, because they are made to feel a burden, or they're made to feel guilty and all that. And that's when they feel that, yes, they are better off dying. I don't know, it makes me feel very sad.
Yes, I should have prepared a video of some people who are in that situation, who've been to court, and I should have, tried to produce the evidence that they put before their lawyers, put before the court, why they should be allowed to die, because this has happened on several occasions. On each occasion, the courts in the UK and other countries have refused to let them die. And to me, it's cruel. Mohammed's second, go on.
Yeah, so do you, what is your opinion about suicide then? You think suicide is okay?
I think that if you're...
Somebody committing a suicide is okay?
I think if you're committing suicide by driving your car into somebody else's car, that is obviously a horrible, terrible thing for two families to experience. And that is to try and avoid suicide, that I want the law to change and allow people to go through a process and be honest with others and say, I want to die, let me die, and go through this whole process. Suicide is dangerous, it's painful, and we want to stop suicide by offering an exit route which is humane and civilized. So that Mohammed's second point.
But then
sorry.
Yeah, go on.
So what method would you suggest for? What method would you suggest for euthanasia? There are countries and states that deliver euthanasia. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going into the details of how it should be done. It can be done. It is being done. There's no reason why it couldn't be done in this country like in other countries. No, but I mean, if you look at injection, for example, they are often, with the death penalty cases, they often go wrong. So one injection is put into the person, and which sets them off to sleep, and the second one, which is supposed to stop their heart rate, actually, so in some cases, or the poison barrier, or the body doesn't react, or they have a more excruciating pain. So that's another question.
Yeah, they call the lethal injection. That's what they name them, lethal injections.
Mm. Well, yeah, I mean, that is another question. That is a question of, at the moment we're debating whether it should be allowed. How it is done is a different question, and I don't think that it affects the motion. The motion is this House believes that people of sound mind have the right to die. And we're talking about that right. Is it my right to choose when I die? About how it is done is a different question.
But surely to make an educated decision on the question of their right, they would have to take all factors into consideration.
Absolutely. Yeah, sure.
So maybe knowing the method might dissuade them from from that right. So
there are many things.
Definitely is relevant to the question.
No, it's not relevant to the right. It's relevant to the method. There are many things that could change their opinion. That's why I'm saying there should be a panel to consider it. There should be, it should take a considerable time to go into all questions, including the method, all of those things. but that doesn't affect whether they have the right, whether they have, I think it's one of our human rights that we have the right to choose when we die. The method and all those other questions are a different question. Like there's a question about who should be on the panel. There's a question of who should pay for all this. There's lots of other questions. But at the moment, we're just talking about the right to go through the process. Yes,
at the moment, the Suicide Act 1961 makes it illegal to encourage or assist a suicide in England or Wales. Those who are found guilty of the offence could face 14 years in prison. So at the moment, there is no such thing as committing this assisted suicide.
No, and that's what I want to change.
But you know what my question is, Philip? How many of those people in that situation would actually take the time? Because obviously it would be a very long and I don't know how rewarding process. How many of those people in that situation would spend their last days, months, or years trying to fight for that right?
Well, that's exactly what this man did. He went through all the courts. He ended up in the Heights. This took years to go through this. Yeah. It wasn't a snap decision, and he died from this slow wasting disease just a week after the final decision. It took him years. So, yeah, that's.
So if this was to be something that would be considered, then the process should be very fast.
No, it should be
for the sake of the patient, because what's the point to go through the process?
No, it should be thorough. No, it shouldn't be fast at all. It should be thorough. You have to go through all the different aspects.
No, I agree. I agree with the fact that you have to go through different aspects, but we all know these processes take time sometimes.
Yeah. But that's, I think that's how the law should sit. But I mean, what I'm saying is, I don't think it's beyond the wit of man to work out a process that ensures that the person who's making this decision, that's using this right to die, which we've given him, has made the right decision for him. He's not under pressure. He's not doing it on a whim. It's his final decision. That's where it's thinking. We try to dissuade him, and he will not be dissuaded. After all of that, which would obviously take time, take lots of skilled people to do, if he still says he wants to die, what right has the state to say no, you cannot? Wanting
to change this act is only a minor amount of people would want to die, because otherwise, infinitely, life has been. People want long life. People are desiring for longer lives instead of ending their lives. Yeah. They are trying to keep healthy, and they're trying to make changes in their life to live longer. So there will be very small percentage. The ones we're talking about are in pain and all. They've got no choice. They're a burden and all that. And there will be a very minority of people wanting to commit that suicide.
We're not talking about people who are insane. People who are insane would not be allowed to do that.
No, I'm talking about people in the right mind.
But so the motion is, this has been that people of sound mind have the right. But I mean, you say it's a small percentage. A small percentage out of millions could still be hundreds, couldn't it? So it could be hundreds of people who would want to make this decision, but are having to live against their will because the state won't let them die. So, I mean, those hundreds, if you were one of those hundreds, you wouldn't think it was just not worth bothering about. I don't think you would. you would want the state to change the law. People do. I mean, there are many people who've campaigned for this. As the statistic I quoted, 82% of people support changing the law and legalizing euthanasia for terminally ill people. 82% think that this should be allowed.
I think another question would be, how long is the review process? So if just say a person comes in January and is feeling like this, and then the hospitals begin to say maybe 1 year of a process, and then after that maybe on the 13th month you can actually go through the procedure where your life is ended. I mean, like we've all had rough years, so how would anybody know whether at the end of that year or maybe 6 months after that year a person's life could not be changed around? So I think if this was to happen, it would have to be a lot longer than maybe a year or two. So I think that would just the person would still be enduring the pain. So it's not like the pain would be automatically ended, so it wouldn't be a
that was exactly my point as well, Mohammed, that if that would have been an option, then the process should be made as effective and easy and fast as possible for the victim, because what would be the point of going through the process if, as the case discussed, you would get the decision and then you would die anyway a week later?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's impossible. Like Philip was saying earlier, that it would be a better alternative to suicide, but I think suicide is so instantaneous. Like you could literally, do it in that moment. But I think with assisted dying, when it's so important like that, it can never be, within a month's time or something. There would have to be, to Philip's point, a long period of time to review and analyze and make sure all the experts are on board, and there's a panel where there should be like at least a consensus opinion of, being in agreement that this person should have the right to die. So it's difficult on that front.
And every case is going to be different. So not everyone would be, not everyone's situation would be the same. So I think that's important to consider as well.
Also, there's a question that is bugging me. Is this disposing of elderly people or wanting to commit suicide, is it more in Western society, or is it happening everywhere now, even in Eastern society? Because in Eastern society or other countries, African countries or Asian countries, they still keep their elderly very protected and look after the elderly. And in the Western society, loneliness, neglect, and all these kind of things have made these people wanting to look into committing suicide, assist their assisted dying.
Yeah. No, I understand the point you're making. I mean, Western society, people are busy with their work, looking after their children. They don't look after their elderly parents anymore. They normally send them into care homes.
And I think that's part of the pain as well that they're holding, as well as the physical pain that they're in. I think there are other pieces to the jigsaw that go into their pain. I think that's why we need to focus on building on these blocks instead of looking for an easier way out for this, to be honest. I think.
Well, I'm not talking about an easy way out. So what I'm envisaging is a panel who would review the situation. If they came to the conclusion that you've just come to, that this person, there is no fundamental reason why they want to die except the fact they feel as if they've been thrown on the scrap heap by their family, then the conclusion from that would be that we need some way of helping those people to build a life by, introducing them to other societies, by taking them out of their current situation which they don't like. I mean, that's exactly what the panel is for. It's to review how the person is feeling, what is their problem, why are they in this state, and how can we help them short of helping them to die. And that's, I mean, hopefully 95% of people who want to die will end up enjoying their lives. But ultimately, I still think that the 5% who are left, who cannot be persuaded, should be allowed to die. And it's with a hope of being allowed to die that people will not commit suicide. Suicide is a horrible, messy business. It often leaves people crippled but still alive. It leaves other people killed. We want to avoid suicide. And if we give people the hope that the state will let them die if they can pass through the panel, then that will reduce suicide. So there are lots of reasons why I think this is a good idea. The other thing that Mohammed said was that being of sound mind is difficult to define. Well, doctors have to define this, do this all the time in the courts. Cases go, somebody's committed a crime and they have to decide, are they of sound mind? Are they fit to stand trial? So doctors have got a lot of experience in deciding if somebody's of sound mind. I don't think that's a major stumbling block. They would do that with everybody who came before them. They would have to decide if they're capable of making a rational and logical decision or not.
But doctors surely are there to give life, not take life away. That's their role. That's what when they do the medicine, the first oath they take is to save people's life, not take their lives away.
Yeah, I mean, you're focusing now on the point of how is the life ended, who does it, and I don't think that's got anything to do with this motion. The motion is about, have we got the right to choose to die? How it's done, who does it, where it's done, all those issues.
They don't matter.
We'll only follow after this. The first question is decided. Yeah, we need to, to persuade people that this is a good thing, you would have to go into all of those issues, because people aren't going to change their minds. The politicians who have opposed the right to die for years, they're not going to change their mind unless they can see the proposed system. So all of that would have to be proposed.
Yeah, I think it'd be pointless, to be honest, determining whether people should have the right to die without asking whether it would work in practice. So I think it should all be a conversation that should be had in the same sort of sitting. So I think it'd be pointless to determine that everybody has a right to die and then not be able to because of barriers that they stumble into along the way once they're able to.
No, I agree with you. When we're drawing up a bill to put to Parliament to put this proposal, we would have to go through all of that. But this debate is a motion about the people's right to die. We're not putting a bill before Parliament. We're just deciding on one single question: have people got the right ultimately to decide to die?
Are we not giving our youth the wrong message as well by doing this, by bringing this legislation about it will be mostly elderly or people in pain, maybe disabled people or whoever going through the illnesses and all that. Are we giving the right message to the society?
I'm not sure that you're right. I think that it could be young people. There's a lot of self-harm being done by especially young girls. Some of those might want to die, and those again could go before the panel. I mean, I don't know, because I haven't really thought about it, but I don't see why. Well, I mean, there could be a lower age limit. You can't go before the panel before the age of 16 or something. I don't know. But I mean, I don't think it would necessarily be who you think would go to the panel.
Okay, I think I would say, okay, if we say that suicide, assisted dying is very comfortable, we are comfortable with it. So where do you put manslaughter? Because in a situation whereby maybe it was a mistake, and then maybe that person, the person in question, was actually almost like the other person was trying to either save life or was either trying to, when manslaughter occurs, it could be anything. It could be either somebody trying to save life or somebody trying to okay, I'm not doing so well. And maybe in the course of trying to save the other person, something happens and the other person's life is gone. So do you think that someone should be persecuted for that, for manslaughter?
If you're trying to save somebody's life and you fail and they die, that's not manslaughter. Manslaughter is when you kill deliberately by choice. You kill somebody else against their will. That's manslaughter. Well, I mean, if you kill somebody because they want to, that could be. I guess at the moment that would be manslaughter as well. But manslaughter is generally when you kill somebody for whatever reason deliberately. So if you're trying to cure somebody and they die, that's not manslaughter.
Oh, that's not manslaughter. That's what? Self-defense?
No, that's an accident. You've failed to cure them. For whatever reason, they've died. But
okay, so they did not die willingly.
No, that's right.
Okay. So, do we have comments on the live videos?
No. Mind you, to get this to work, you have to advertise it before. So I have advertised the YouTube video. Unfortunately, for some reason I can't understand, I couldn't make it work on the original. So it's now being streamed on a different account, which works, but because it was a different account, nobody's aware of it. So I'm watching it. I'm the only one. But I mean, I will take this video. So I'll have the video from YouTube. I'll have a video that I'm recording, and I'll put them together and cut out all the early stuff which was irrelevant, and produce a new cleaned up video, and put that onto the UNA website, a YouTube account.
Okay.
But no, nobody's watching it, unfortunately. I don't know what I mean. It's strange. Normally I can stream it, but for some reason today I couldn't stream it to where I wanted to.
I'm sure we'll do much better as time goes on. We decided to just stream it today. Just an hour.
No, we did it last time as well.
Yeah, it worked last time.
Was it live on YouTube?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think the account doesn't have many subscribers, but hopefully one day, once things start to pick up, it'll be a lot easier to get, public interaction.
We're trying to see how we could do maybe like the video so that people could comment, ask questions, and maybe add. Yeah,
it's all about promoting it on social media.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, promotion.
To be honest, I've tried emailing volunteers as well, and it didn't work. I mean, it's the second time when I'm advertising something and I receive no answer.
It would be good to put it on the Facebook and get a lot of people's opinions on this subject as well.
Okay.
We want more and more people's opinion on it, and need more debates.
I think that's a good idea. Like, instead of looking for live questions at the beginning.
Yeah, but we notice most times, even when we post something on Facebook, we get people to comment and like and comment especially. Yeah. We will still have to keep doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, what you can do, you can stream to YouTube, and I think Facebook's the other one at the moment. Well, I can stop streaming now because, before I stop streaming, we need to have a vote. But I think Facebook is also possible. I have to try.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to do some adverts as well.
Yeah, advertising is key. I mean, I should be writing press releases and stuff like that, which I'm not doing. Anyway.
I think YouTube is just a last point. Sorry, Philip. YouTube is a hard avenue to engage people. I looked at the UNA America page, and that's only got.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes,
we can.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes, we
can.
Okay, I think the network went off.
Can you not hear us?
No, I couldn't. It went blank.
It maybe your what do you call it is gone switched off or something. Your speaker,
Internet.
No,
Let's. Well, I think normally at the end of a debate you have a vote. Now I'm pretty sure what the vote is going to be, but so if you go down to your menu and click on participants,
Chat.
a little window will pop up which shows you the 1, 2, 6 participants. So we're going to have a vote. And so the question is, do you agree with the motion? And the motion is, this House believes that people of sound mind have the right to die when they decide. And you should have a yes and a no for voting.
So how do we vote? By going there?
Just say yes or a no.
You should
Yeah,
go,
but where?
you need to see your menu. There's a menu within Zoom.
Yes.
Where you have participants.
Normally at the bottom of the screen. If you can't see, you might need to click on the screen and then you see the menu pop up. Maybe.
Sorry.
There's a menu there called participants.
Yeah, I've got the menu with the participants, but then at the bottom it says raise hand. Okay, it says yes or no, right?
Yes or no. That's
Yes.
Okay. Right. Okay. Are we ready to do it now?
Yeah, we're doing it.
Okay.
Okay. Well, amazingly, it's a dead heat because I thought you would vote unanimously against.
Who?
Will was supposed to vote against because he spoke against.
Yeah, I am against. So have I done the wrong thing?
No, I mean William.
Yeah, I made it wrong. Yeah.
William, yeah.
Will, why are you not paying attention?
I was paying attention because you said for the motion before, so
Yeah, it's the English language can be difficult as well sometimes.
Okay, so
Maybe it can get confusing, yeah.
as we expected, the motion has been defeated by 4 votes against and only 2 in favour. So well done, you guys.
Thank you. So we're against
To
it.
be honest, I think it's a very subjective issue.
Mm.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, I'm going to stop the